Welcome to another episode of They've Got Now. I am really excited to be joined today by Leilani Kapinus from over at Vanderbilt, one of the top transfers in women's college basketball this season, and one of my favorite players to watch because we love defense here. Leilani, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I can't complain. It's like fall came in about 48 hours in Ohio, so it's like I'm just getting accustomed to that. Like you wake up every day. It's like all right, cool, hoodie and sweats, and then by midday I'm like, all right, I need to turn the AC on in my house.
Mhm.
So trying to handle the highs and lows of that. I know that you're a Midwest person as well. So how are you kind of acclimating to Nashville?
Oh man, I actually my first couple times getting dressed out here, which is crazy to say. I wore a hoodie and sweats outside, and I instantly regretted it. And I was
Yep.
like, "Oh yeah, this is a change." Like shorts and like a t-shirt every time. So I've been trying to get my shorts and t-shirt game up. I've been at the mall shopping, trying to get more shorts because I have so many sweatpants. But it's been all right. It's been great so far.
Yeah. I mean, hey, that's what Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Ohio preps you for. So understandable. Um, but I think I want to start with just in terms of what your summer has been like, because I'm sure it's been kind of a whirlwind. Obviously, you graduated after going into the portal and obviously end up in Nashville, but then have to finish up classes and then classes are
Mhm.
back up on top. So what has this summer been like for you? I feel like
Yeah.
it's probably just been a whirlwind since about March.
Yeah, it definitely has. This summer has been really crazy. I obviously came to Nashville and I was kind of expecting to jump into workout sooner than it happened. I thought I was gonna be able to jump in like end of June when I finished up my internship. I did an internship with football and men's basketball at TSU, so I had to get hundreds of hours over there.
Yeah.
So that was a lot. Also trying to balance getting, like, shots up in the gym and stuff because I wasn't allowed to work out with the team because I hadn't technically graduated from Penn State yet, so just the rules there, but, it was a lot. It was really an adjusting period, but I feel like I really had to work on just myself starting, and, I feel like that was really big for me.
No, absolutely. And it's exactly what you're talking about. Like having the transfer rules is just so wild sometimes
I
because like,
know.
all right, well, cool. I'm part of the team, but not really. So how do
Exactly.
we make that work? I want to dive into that too, though. Like, especially like kind of handling the transfer portal. What was
Mm,
that like for you? Because I can imagine you were somebody who probably got a lot of calls as soon as your name went in. So what went into the decision for you, and how did you kind of handle that as it first started up?
yeah. I would say it was very similar to like the high school process when you first enter the like you're about to graduate and you're trying to make your big decision on where to go. But I would say it was also easier in the sense of I've been in college for 4 years, so
Mhm.
I know what I'm looking for. I know what I want. And this time around, it was just really big for me to just find a place that I just naturally knew like I would fit in. My visits were important to me, just connecting with the team, connecting with the coach. I told Coach Shay that I just wanted to find someone that I could run through a brick wall for, and I just knew that was her instantly as soon as we started talking, and I loved the girls on my visit. They just made me feel like I was at home again. So, that was 2 big, reasons, and then also just furthering my development as a player, like, I trust in her vision for the team, and I've seen what she's done already to progress the team. So, just trusting in her vision for that and also for my own personal development.
Definitely. Well, talking about your own personal development in the fall. I mean, in the summer as well. Like again, like can't really be with the team. So like, how
Mm.
do you kind of balance that? Like you mentioned, like getting shots up yourself and self starting. But like, how did you kind of focus on that? What was that like? And what were some things you focused on this summer?
Yeah. That's a great question. I had to work around my internship, so either I would come to the gym really early or really late at night to get my shots up. A lot of the everything I did was on gun based, so I couldn't work out with someone there with me, so I had to do literally everything on my own. So,
Mhm.
just the gun was a great rebounder. Just working on ball screen setups, coming off. I did a lot of like imaging and like imagining my own head, like where a defender was. If help side came and stepped up, what would I do here? Just working on like my own skills and trying to get a little creative with it because being in the gym alone sometimes can be a little frustrating, a little hard. So just, giving myself grace and just trying to work on other things that I had heard in the transfer portal that some people were looking at for me. Yeah.
Definitely. I wanted to ask too, did you give any thought at all to like entering the draft? Because you were draft eligible this last year. And it's
Mhm.
something as somebody who is like, I do a lot of stuff with scouting and around the draft itself. Was that something that you gave any thought to, or that anybody maybe tried to poke you in the direction of?
I did think about it. I just felt like I had another year, another opportunity for more to prove,
Hmm.
and I wanted to really take that because I just felt like I had some unfinished business here, and I just really wanted to, take one more year to just show people what I really can do and what I'm capable of because I don't really think that I've showcased all of my abilities yet.
I like that mindset. And I feel like, kind of diving into last year for you, you really grew as a player. Like obviously you've been a good player, but I think like you're mentioning, you really got to showcase a lot of what you can do this last year. So it's exciting to hear about, there being more. Um, I want to start with talking about your shot because it felt like you just were able to get so comfortable with it. Like there are sometimes players who like, you know, they're able to hit a couple and maybe it bumps the percentages, but last year it just felt like you were really comfortable with it.
Mhm.
What was kind of that process of getting to that with you? Because even I mean, you were taking some off the dribble. It wasn't just like, I'm wide open, so I'm going to take it. Like it was like, very much it felt like something that you were just comfortable doing.
Yeah. I definitely would say my confidence skyrocketed. And that just came from getting in the gym more and just having my teammates at Penn State in my ear, like, giving me motivation to take those shots. And I kind of just feel like I stepped into a new role for my team. And I guess I would say like my maturity level and being able to handle taking a shot just improved so much. I feel like my coaching staff there also did a really good job of just like helping me see like, sometimes the best shot is, your shot. And sometimes I had a little battle in my head like, is this shot selfish? Should I pass here? And I kind of fought with that a little bit. But yeah, I would just say uh my coaches and my teammates and just my confidence honestly just skyrocketed.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think like, on top of that too, like you were already somebody who's really good attacking the rim, but I think that got so much better last year because, people had to think about you taking your shot. Like, I don't know if you're aware of how well you shot at the rim, but you shot over 61% on layups last year, outside of transition. So like transition, obviously you're going to shoot even better, but like that's really good. There are bigs who don't shoot that well, and you're 5'10". Granted, you do not play like you're 5'10" at all. But I felt like that was just something that continued to skyrocket for you. Like in general too, like just playing through contact, I think was something you really excelled at last year. Um, what do you think was kind of big in you finding that groove? Do you think a lot of that was your shot, or just also kind of like, slowing down a little bit and seeing things differently?
Yeah, I would say definitely. My pace of play is really fast, as you probably see.
Hmm.
So just working on my balance and my body control has been really big for me. It was big for me during the season, and it's been big for me off like on my off season too. So I say just slowing down and focusing on the actual finish and not just trying to get the foul call or make the 2 points at the free throw line, but just really trying to make 3 point plays every time. That was like always my mindset. Me and my coaches would always just talk about like don't expect the foul call, like, just put the ball in the basket. So, that's just something I really focused on every time I would go up with the ball, yeah.
Definitely. We'll talk about your defense in a second, but like I think part of what's so interesting, I feel like often, and I don't know if you feel this, but like sometimes players get branded as like, when you're a defensive player, people just that's what they think of you for.
Mm,
But again, like I think like you have a lot of versatility in your game as an offensive player. Like again, last year you really got to take advantage of smaller guards in the post. You're an awesome cutter. Like you can do a ton. Like you expand even more doing stuff out of pick and roll. Like I feel like there's even more for your game to really unlock this coming year, which is really exciting because I think there are even more weapons around you coming
mhm.
into Vanderbilt. What are you maybe most excited to showcase this year? Because I know you mentioned like you really want to show stuff, but what are you most excited to showcase this year?
Yeah. I would say just showcasing my shooting abilities even more, coming off of screens and being able to take that mid-range jump shot. That's something I've really focused on in the off season. Just shooting, if I can't get all the way to the basket and I can't take an open three, the mid-range is so open, and I feel like it's a lost art, and I've just really tried to hone into my skill and development there, and just coming off ball screens and reading better in my decision making. I really want to get my turnovers down this season, higher assist to turnover ratio. So all those things were stuff that I focused on, and I'm really excited to show everybody.
Definitely. You mentioned getting feedback in the portal. Um, what was that kind of like, especially from Vanderbilt? Like, what was the feedback you got, and what kind of like? I know that just being around them in general sold you on going there, but what kind of was the direction for you, player development wise? Like, okay, this is something I can really buy into and want to be in.
Yeah. A lot of the stuff I had just mentioned, the feedback they gave me was stuff that I've focused on in the off season. So
Hmm.
pick and roll reads. I didn't come off too many pick and rolls, ball screens. So just doing that, repping that more in the off season was big for me. And um they talked a lot about my mid range game and just they were really impressed with my shooting efficiency and my 3-point percentage and just kind of them wanting me to take more of those shots, really excited me because I felt like you said, like, when you're a defensive player, sometimes people just try to put you in a defensive box, and I love that they wanted me to hone in more on my offensive side, and I wanted to, like, expand that more too, so when I talked to coaches, that was a really big deal if, they just mentioned my defense or they talked about how they could help me expand both sides of basketball was huge for me. And at Vanderbilt, they did that and they talked to me about that. And I believed in them. I trust them. So, yeah, it was just a really good feeling I have. And I feel like that's kind of like a little mini superpower I have is being able to tell when people are being straight up with me. So I could definitely tell that they were being honest. And yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, one thing that stands out about everybody at Vanderbilt is it is a very straight up program in the best
Hmm.
way, I think. Like they're gonna
Yeah,
tell you how it is, and I like that a lot because I feel the same. Like if you're going to tell me something, may as well be something that I should listen to. So,
exactly.
um, I mean, mentioning growing on the defensive side as well, I think part of what I'm really excited about for you is like, I mean, this is just a completely different defense. Like you guys played a ton of press, man to man switching stuff at Penn State last year, and now you get to play in like the most zone heavy team in Power 5. Like they
Hmm.
run a really good matchup zone, which I think you'll fit well into, and we can talk about that in a minute. But like, just kind of like wrapping your mindset around playing something so different. What has that been like now that you've gotten to see it a little bit and be in for summer stuff?
Yeah. Honestly, we haven't started implementing,
Yeah.
like, team defensive yet, so I'm really excited about that still. We had our first defensive practice yesterday, and it was more focused on, like, just rotations, scramble situations, closeout, stuff like that. Um, so I'm still waiting to see how I will feel about all that, but I mean, I've played matchup zone a lot before in the past as well. And honestly, I love any defensive scheme. Anything that is new is fun to me. Can challenge me in different ways. So I'm excited to see how it
Yeah.
is.
No, I'm very excited for it too because I feel like, to me at least, watching, I feel like you're very much like a defensive thinker. Like you're somebody
Mhm.
who really sees things and analyzes. And that's a big part of what being in a matchup zone is. Like it's so
Mhm.
fun. Like I don't know how much you've watched of them, going back and seeing what they did this last year, but it's like it almost looks like they're playing like man to man because of
And
how
yep,
well you do it, and
yeah.
that's really hard to do, but I think, like, you're somebody like your lateral quickness always stands out to me, but also, like, you don't take bad steps. So you
Mhm.
always have, like, a short path going somewhere, and that's key to beating people to their points, and, I feel like what you can do rotationally too, like, you cover ground at a really high level, and you have a big wingspan, so I think there's just so many ways to see how well you're gonna fit into this too.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um what like, especially, like, looking at the defensive side, though, what are some things that you wanna, again, like, maybe showcase on that side of the ball that you can keep doing or maybe that you haven't gotten to yet?
Yeah. I would definitely say I'm really excited for the SEC in specific because of how physical they play here.
Mhm.
And just kind of being able to be more physical without getting those foul calls. And just, I would say, just staying in front of the ball more, like, I feel like there's nobody that should really beat me off the bounce if I really lock in, and that's something I really hold myself accountable to, like, I'll get mad when I get scored on. So, I just feel like keeping that same, mindset and expectation of myself, I'll just carry that over this season too.
For sure. Speaking on defense as a whole too, like, I think so what's so hard about defense, and especially I think watching the Big Ten last year, like everyone in the Big Ten plays super spread out. Like there's nobody who doesn't play 4 out at least. So it's like a ton of pace, ton of shooting, ton of movement, which is obviously where the game is at and where it's headed still.
Yeah.
Um, but I also think it just reinforces like good defense is just so hard to do because you have to be so locked in as a group. It's very often not just one person's fault if something happens. So how do you kind of reinforce that in yourself play to play and possession by possession, just like making sure that you're locked into being the best defender? Because I think again, like, yeah, you get steals and you get blocks, but it's the consistency from you that always stands out. Like you are consistently able to keep people in front and do the right thing. But how do you kind of continue to reinforce that when, especially if okay, you're playing a team like Iowa or a team like, Indiana and they'll run, you're playing like 100 possessions a game. Like there's a lot going on there offensively. So how do you kind of reinforce some of that stuff?
Yeah. I would say a big thing for me is just I'm really film oriented. So watching and seeing what people's, go-to moves are or, you know, things that I can pick up on and um practice and look over repeatedly to kind of have their tell signs of when they're gonna do something or knowing the other team's play calls and the sets they're about to run before they even run them, like are really things I pride myself on and things that have really helped me in the past. I would also say defense is very communication driven. So, as I got older, I realized how much talking and just saying where you're at or telling your teammate, "Hey, I got your gap, I got your back," like that all like helps the team defense and not just your defense. So, yeah, I would say that.
Yeah, especially playing in a zone too. That's like so
Mhm.
much of that is communication being on top of it. So I'm going to be excited to watch that play out this year.
Yeah.
Um, but going off that too, like just I think one of the things you really excel at is being able to get around screens and blow screens up. And again, like that's I think something that you are always looking to finding players who are at the guard spot and on the wing. What is maybe the most important aspect to you of that? Like obviously I know every screen is different, every player is different, but like if you could kind of hone in on like what is the most important part of you getting around screens and making it hard to come off of them.
Yeah. I think when you get over a screen, it kind of like, I don't know, it kinda just speeds up the offense, the person with the ball, and I feel like sometimes they don't really expect that because a lot of people try to go under, switch, and I feel like when you stay connected and you get around, uh, it kinda is just, like, more of a mental side of it too, like, just showing, like, the physical toughness side of it and, that basically that, like, nothing you do when I'm guarding you is gonna be easy, so I think that's, like, one of the main parts of it, yeah.
Mhm. Last couple of things I want to close up on, just kind of getting the feel for this team too and stepping in. Like obviously there's a lot of veteran leadership on the team as well, but like how do you kind of come in and make your voice felt as well? Like obviously I know you don't want to come in and just be like yeah, I think there's obviously a balancing act, right? Like you don't want to
Mhm.
come in and like take things over, but also like, you're that level of player. That's what you're coming here to do. So how do you kind of acclimate to that and feel that out?
Yeah. That's actually something that I'm really, focused on working on right now,
Hmm.
which is a really great question. Yeah, when you come into a new team, and obviously I've had teammates that have been transfers as well, so I've kinda seen it on their end and how they did it, so it's been helping me in that way, but you don't wanna do too much right away. You have to let the team fill you out a little bit, get to know you more, and you kinda wanna lean on the leaders that are returning and then just slowly, I would say, just insert your voice here and there, and I feel like after your teammates start to trust you and, like, they know what you're saying is coming from, like, a good place and, just holding them accountable, it just and then also taking that accountability right back, it'll just build on its own, so that's where I've been, trying my hardest, just playing hard and, letting my teammates see, like, the type of player I am from their own eyes and building trust that way. So that way, when I can lead and help lead, they are receptive to it. And it's been going really good so far. So,
For sure. I think part of what's so interesting too is like you're just not gonna have like a feel for that until games start, right? Like,
yeah.
everything can be a certain way in practice, and obviously that elevates you and gets you ready for something. But then like once it actually starts, like, okay, well, that's when we'll find out. So it's kind of
Mm,
like Yeah, it definitely makes things a little interesting that way.
Yeah.
Um, Off that too, is there anybody in practice that you've kind of like now that you've gotten to see their games a little bit, you've been like, all right, I did not know you were that nice with it, or somebody who's
Mhm.
really stood out to you in the way that they've grown?
Yeah. I would say we have a freshman, Michaela Blake's
She's
coming
so good.
in. She
So good.
is like really, really good. So I'm really excited for everyone else to see how good she is that don't know already. And I'm really excited for her to get the recognition that she's definitely going to earn this season. She's a very hard worker. She's a great defender, great offensively as well. So I'm just really excited to see her flourish this season and see what she does.
When you say that she's like, I mean, like obviously I agree that she's a great player, but like what stands out to you? Like what are the things that you've seen so far that kind of set her apart?
She's tough. Um, she'll fight over the top of the screen to try to blow it up. She's physical off the ball. I feel like a lot of players aren't physical off the ball, and that's something that seeing in her kinda, reminded me of myself, just her physicality level, and I think as a freshman, having that already, uh, sets her above a lot of other people that, are coming in as freshmen, and, yeah, I just think she has a lot of the skills and the things that don't show up in stat sheets as well that'll help the team and help her and help anybody she's playing with at the time on the court.
Absolutely. Yeah, one of my favorite parts about her is, like, she's really poppy around the rim. Like, she has
Mhm.
a ton of finishes that are, like, right at the basket, like, very much plays
Yes,
high up. Like, she very good leaper off 1 foot. Like, that's she's gonna be a tough guard, so I'm excited to
for
see her
sure.
play in the SEC. To close out, looking ahead at this season and just kinda your future, what are some things you really wanna accomplish this year and moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, childhood dream is to get drafted at the end of this. So everything I do is focusing on how am I going to make myself better now for next year when there's that draft again coming up. And it's always been my dream to play at the next level and not only get drafted, but make the final cut as well. Like make it to the end and so everything I do is going to be focused on that. Whatever I can do to make myself better and in the process help my team win games and um play deep in March.
Absolutely. Well, I'm excited to see you do that. I think you got a really bright future ahead, obviously. So, very excited to see what you guys can put together and where you're headed. Is there anything you want to shout out before we get out here?
Um just the whole Vanderbilt staff, everyone, the community just making me feel so welcome, my teammates and my dad and my family for helping me through this crazy transfer portal process.
Definitely. Did you get everybody geared up already for Commodore stuff?
Listen, my family has been on top of it on their own. They're out here creating jerseys. Like, I don't even know how they're getting these jerseys because my jersey's not even on the website yet. But they're
Yeah.
out here just going to the mall in Wisconsin and getting custom jerseys made. So,
It's the little things, right? Family's always on top of it. Well, Leilani, I
for
really
sure.
appreciate your time. To everyone listening and watching, of course, thank you for that. Be sure to go subscribe down below and have a great rest of your day.